Hello and welcome back for another exciting podcast episode of American Pylon. Your host here, Will Mehall, joined by one of our usual counterparts, Tyler Combs. We've also got Dr. Brent Johnson standing in for James Thomas Fanning IV.
Upgrade.
Jimmy's off on an exotic excursion to South America with the girlfriend and their family. So what once was perceived to be not serious at all is now quickly and rapidly developing into a serious relationship.
Man, is not here to defend himself. Also, I don't think he's with her family. So
Yeah, I don't think he's with the family.
Does her family not live in Colombia?
They're from Colombia.
Shout out to Jess's grandma. She, the girlfriend's grandma, they will not be visiting her.
But do they live in Colombia?
I think one family member
Therefore,
does.
they are with their families in Colombia.
So maybe it is that serious.
It is that serious. If you're in the same country, it's getting there.
Small country.
Anyways.
Shout out to Jimmy. Wish you could be here, but we got something better. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the UGA versus Vandy game, recap the beatdown that we watched this past weekend. We're going to talk about a little bit more of the landscape around the Southeastern Conference, what's been going on there, and kind of the just, yeah. So, yeah, why don't we go ahead and kick it off? First of all, I want to talk about what Vandy looked like in that stadium, because holy cow.
Yeah.
When you turned, I mean, other than the hideous V at the 50-yard line, you would have thought that was at a neutral site and nobody else got tickets from Vanderbilt.
Stadium.
Yeah,
It was unbelievable.
It was awesome. It is tough. You gotta kind of, I don't know. I do agree with you, but when you think about Vandy, because they were talking about this, I think was it during the show? I don't know. Maybe it was a podcast or something I was listening to.
American Pylon, probably.
Yeah, probably American Pylon. But it's hard for Vandy, who's not a great program, and then they're such a destination city. Like if you really think about it, like how many fan bases when they say, we got an away game at Vandy, let's go make a weekend out of it in Nashville. To me, it's tough to kind of consider that, because I mean you can fly into town, it's a pretty easy flight for most destinations, and then they obviously don't have the same fan base, but it kind of lends itself to those kind of games where you're like, wow, Georgia fans showed out.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I think it kind of all started with the Notre Dame game, at least for the Georgia faithful. It feels like since that Notre Dame game, which was obviously very highly anticipated, historic program and campus in Notre Dame, destination city like Chicago, just down the road. Since then, since Kirby's arrival and that big game, there's been a spark that since you saw Georgia take over.
Talking about our
South
fans
Bend,
getting on the road,
right? Yeah, like since that well-traveled game, we took over South Bend, and you would have thought you were on UGA's beautiful campus up in Indiana. It's just people have wanted to get a piece of that themselves, whether it be going to Vanderbilt, going to trying to go to LSU. We didn't take over Baton Rouge, but still, New Orleans was just flooded with dogs. So, to Brent's point, on top of that, just being right in the middle of Nashville on a long holiday weekend, super fun. Yeah, I mean, it's a home away from home. That's what it looked like. I mean, it was incredible seeing the videos afterwards of even like lighting up Sanford like we were in the fourth quarter at home.
That was impressive.
That really shows you how many people are actually in the stands that are contributing to that segment that we do in the fourth quarter. But yeah, it was super impressive. I mean, I wasn't there, unfortunately. I don't think any of us attended the game. I know a few folks, a longtime listener, Cole Erickson was there at the game. I know.
Was he?
Yeah,
nice.
I know. Ticket prices were pretty outrageous considering it was
like
Vanderbilt.
$150 a ticket.
The cheapest I saw day of was like $230, which is crazy because I think we talked about this last episode that Jimmy and I went a couple of years ago, and we paid $30 to sit on the 40-yard line, like 10 rows up.
Wow.
Yeah, that was 2017.
If you think about that, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So I think that's just what everyone was ready for college football to start. Again, in Nashville, Vanderbilt doesn't really have the fan base, so they're more than willing to dump their tickets, make some money.
I'd be interested to see what how that ticket price compares to the rest of the season, taking away Notre Dame, to see how that compares in price wise.
Yeah, I think they said on like StubHub we had the fourth most expensive ticket that weekend. Of all events.
I thought it was even higher. I thought it was like the first or second from what I heard on the broadcast.
He's talking about specifically the Vandy game.
Oh,
not
yeah.
the Georgia Notre Dame ticket is the most expensive.
The Georgia Vanderbilt game of like all the things that were going on every day weekend around the country listed on StubHub or Ticketmaster, whichever one was reporting that. It was the fourth highest
Out of
Portland's
all
expensive.
of the events on there,
Yeah.
holy cow, that's crazy.
Like when you compare,
Go
I mean,
Dogs.
Oregon, Auburn was probably
Yeah.
number one, I would assume.
I think
know
it was
that.
Bama Duke of all things.
well,
Really?
it's in Atlanta. It's the
I think-
Chick-fil-A
yeah, I
kickoff
think it was
game.
closer.
Oh,
I mean, because that was out
Yeah.
in Dallas,
Right.
So you got to imagine those. That's a long.
Yeah, that and then same way with the Vanderbilt thing is close proximity. So it's same as the championship game in 2017, close proximity, most expensive championship game in Atlanta. So and to that point, and we can get into the game right after this. The Dogs stay undefeated. I'm not a fan base at least, just because Georgia Tech. And speaking of tickets and the demand that the Dogs bring when they travel, how we want to go to all these away games. Georgia Tech has now changed their the way they're going to do their tickets, the way they're going to do their allotment of tickets for prime games like Clemson and Georgia, because those fan bases were buying Tech season ticket packages just to have good seats for those games and keeping those and then just selling off the rest of the Tech tickets at like such a low price so that fans that want to go to those games would see these super low prices for the rest of the Tech home games that it would sink the price they're willing to pay. Essentially, they weren't willing to pay these high prices to go, or even face value.
Why would
to
you
go to
though?
Tech? Because all these Georgia and Clemson fans were unloading the rest of their home games for next to nothing just to get rid. So now Georgia Tech is implementing this ticket policy where they will release an allotment of tickets to the general public to buy Clemson and Georgia tickets, but the more that are bought, the price will go up. It'll fluctuate based on demand. That's how they're going to do it for each game now, or at least for the sought after games, to protect,
I guess
to control the money they get directly as opposed to going to the secondary market, which is just crazy to me that. And I've heard about that. I've heard that our fan base will buy up their allotment of season tickets just to do the same thing. If you look at that game every year in Atlanta, it is nothing but red and black in Bobby Dodd Stadium, which is a crappy stadium anyway.
Yeah, I don't know that I would ever.
I want to go to it this year because I've never gone to the game.
Have you not?
Not in Bobby Dodd, not the Georgia.
Did I tell you about the time that we went?
Yeah, I remember when you went.
All right, so quick story. Basically, my brother and I went down there. We were tailgating. We didn't even have tickets to the game. We were like, let's just go towards the stadium to see if we can scalp them. We are walking on the way there and look down as we step off a curb, and there are 2 tickets laying on the ground.
Thank you, God.
Yeah, that we pick up, walk to the stadium. We were like, okay, these are probably fakes, or they've been, used, and you can't leave and come back in. Walked up, scanned them. Enjoy the game.
Wow.
Walked in. We were in the middle of the season ticket holder section for Georgia Tech, but
There's only like one small section of the stadium, right?
it's on the 50-yard
Can't be
line.
many.
Yeah, can't be many.
Well,
That's what I'm getting at.
well, it wasn't the student section.
Yeah.
It wasn't the visitor section.
Right.
So, yeah, it was fun.
That's great. Yeah. Anyway, but so Dogs stay undefeated as far as traveling to away games and basically forcing their will on how other teams sell their tickets. It's kind of fun to watch how well the Bulldog Nation is truly, just bought in on this team. Makes it expensive to attend games. It's not really a family friendly event anymore. I would say just based on price, but
Right.
it's fun to be a part
You
of.
got to take people who care.
For sure. But yeah, let's get into the game. I guess Will.
Yeah,
if you wanna
for
segue.
sure. So, want to break it down and talk a little bit about the offense first, which we were talking about like right before the show started, and I was saying how great I thought that the offensive line did for Georgia. I mean, relatively speaking, with the first game out in, arguably a hostile environment on the road.
I don't know.
But basically, they did well. I mean, we ran the ball all over him, and Kirby came out and said that he didn't think the offensive line played well at all. I mean, Fromm sustained. He was never. I don't think he was ever sacked during the game. He did take a couple of hard hits when he dropped back to pass. So Kirby made that comment, but I thought the offensive line did great, and they were one of the big stories going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Fromm probably got hit a little more than we would like, especially versus a defensive front 7 or front 3 or 4 that isn't considered one of the better ones we're going to see this year. But overall, I think I was really impressed with the offensive line. I think a few things Kirby wants to say that. You want to keep them hungry. You don't want them to get big heads about how great and good they are. We came out of the gate hot, scored in our first 3 drives. I think each was like 10 plays or more. It was like 70 yards.
The first one was like
yards.
75 yards, like 5 yard or 5 minutes off the clock in that
Chunk
first
after
drive.
chunk after chunk. So just staying specifically with the offensive line in Will's piece there, I guess I can see where he's coming from because, again, we kind of saw the ghost from seasons past of the short yardage struggles. Mm-hmm. I think, those 3rd and shorts, I guess it wasn't any. We didn't go for it on 4th down at all, but those third and shorts just seemed later in the game when it didn't really matter. We can excuse it as that, but we just cannot seem to consistently pick that up. We want to, run it down your throat, run it right up the middle, play that power football with our big offensive line, with our stable of running backs, but we don't seem to consistently impose our will on those teams. So I think that's probably more of what he's leaning towards and wants a more complete game. We looked great coming out of the gate when I thought James Coley, our new offensive coordinator, did an excellent job calling the game. I mean, we got James Cook in there involved immediately. Demetrius Robertson looked amazing. I mean, we just attacking the perimeter, opening it up, not being predictable, not telling you, we're just going to run it down your throat until you stop us. Just opening up the game right from the get-go. That was super encouraging. I was very impressed by that. But I think Kirby's point, is just because it gets down to that third and short, and we can't impose our will consistently.
That's something that I feel like Bama seems to do very well.
Yeah.
Is that like third and short, like getting their big running back to convert those like tough third downs.
Yeah, I guess we can do it too. I just think we have to have them fear other things. I think we've seen plays. I remember, I can't remember what game it was, but it was Kirby's first year, and we had to end around with Terry Godwin. We got really cute. And he got knocked back for, I think it was third and short, fourth and short. I don't think it was a big game even, because at that point we had lost a couple of games. But I've seen a lot of hats. I think people say it in the stands, run the damn ball. That's kind of a thing. People get very adamant about like not getting cute with a playbook. Don't put it in Fromm's hands back then. He's a junior now, so maybe we can trust him a little bit more with that. But I would like to see a little more creativity in that short yardage situation, just because I don't know.
We're talking like saying like we should have more play action pass,
bootleg, spread them out, run a 3-wide, 4-wide formation, just to spread the bodies out. When you have, let's say we have 6 or 7 offensive linemen blocking, and they're going to stack the box with 9 men, 10 men. Mm-hmm. It's a numbers game. We can think we have the best offensive line, the greatest running backs, and some teams do. Like I think what Brenton said, Bama seems to be able to not have an issue with that. It's a coaching moment. I think it's something that we should definitely work on so we feel comfortable when we're in that situation. We have to run it. The shortest way from A to B is straight line, right? You don't want to see us start tossing and running sweeps and screens and then getting blown up because we're missing assignment. A lot more can go wrong when you put it out there on the perimeter, when you got to pick up just 1 yard.
Yeah.
When you're asking someone to carry that ball for a little bit longer. So I would like to see that, but I guess I do agree with Kirby in that regard. I don't think it's any time to panic or anything, but I just think it's something we definitely have to. It can't be a liability. You don't want to have that be your liability.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, overall, I was impressed with it. Any other thoughts on the offense?
I would like to see, quite honestly, so Jake Fromm's line, 15 to 23, 156 yards, 6.8 average, and 1 touchdown pass. QBR 70.7. Mm-hmm. I honestly, and I know this isn't really the Georgia way, but or at least the Kirby way, but we also haven't had a third-year quarterback starter under Kirby yet. And we pretty much know, in my opinion, what we have with, our running game and what our abilities are. I want to see in these next couple of games, I might be getting ahead of ourselves here, but, Jake Fromm kind of really taking that bull by the horns and kind of winging it out and really kind of putting some yards under his belt and just getting kind of, these next couple games is an opportunity for him to really kind of develop a rapport with his wide receivers. Mm-hmm. And, because, what the storyline I feel like has been in the past is, we're going to stop their run game. We're going to let Jake, maybe make Jake beat us. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Jake, a lot of times has answered that call, but also, I mean, let's be honest, we got shellacked in Auburn, and we got, beat pretty well at LSU.
Yep.
I want to trust this third-year starter quarterback a little bit. I want to see, a little bit more kind of those 4 wides, play action pass stuff. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to, kind of on that same vein. Trust this guy that's going to be a first-round draft pick. Like let us really kind of see what he has. Again, I know it's not really that Kirby Georgia way, but
I think that comes with establishing the run game early on in the season, and I think that Georgia was able to do that pretty well with Vanderbilt. I mean, we saw the very first play of the game was like opened up for a big run, and then Fromm was kind of nickel and diming him all the way down the field until he had that long throw, which I think was called back for holding. Mm-hmm. But that was like okay, because it's always been a knock saying like, I don't know that he's got the arm to go for like the long ball, which I get. But at the same time, like if he's managing the game as well as he is, and the run game is working as well as it is, then there's going to be that opportunity. And Fromm is accurate enough and smart enough to know either when he's at the line and he's audibling out of a play, which we saw that several times against Vandy, he's going to be able to sling that ball. And I think that the coaches have enough respect for him now that he's got those games under his belt that they're going to give him that leeway to do it.
Yeah. I agree. I think he can. I think he already can. I think selfishly as fans, we want to see it.
Yeah.
But with your point, he just has such a mastery of the playbook. To Will's point, the big deep pass to Demetrius Robertson that unfortunately got called back because of that holding on Charlie Warner.
God, I was going off.
That was incredible. I mean, we were hitting everything.
Oh my God.
That I believe
was exciting.
That pass would have, in all things being the same, he would have eclipsed the 200-yard mark, which I think, are you arguing over 215-yard game versus a 164-yard game? Does that really make you feel that much more comfortable? But I think we saw that we could do it. A lot of stuff was behind the line of scrimmage, but that was a big play. He threw to the graduate transfer from Miami, Lawrence Cager, number 15. He threw that pass to him, and Cager made it work. So there was a few big chunk plays in the passing game that were downfield that definitely worked. So I trust him. I agree. I think he can do it when called upon. As fans, selfishly, I agree. You want to see how balanced can we be to show teams just pick your poison. Here's what you got to do, not just what is Georgia known for. I wouldn't even say it is a Kirby thing. I think to put the brakes on the game and ice the game and just kind of get out of there. Run the clock, but start playing the clock. But I don't know. I guess maybe it's just blind faith. I trust there will be a game that Fromm has to do that, and Fromm will have to pass. And to me, that falls on James Coley more than it does than Kirby Smart. So I think with Coley being his quarterback coach now for 3 years, essentially, I think there's just a lot of rapport there. He knows it. We know it. We got some big wide receivers. I mean, Demetrius Robertson stepped right in and put an emphasis on the passing game immediately. So that there tells me players are already going to be looking at him. Yeah. And the others are unknown. We targeted George Pickens, 4 times. He didn't get a catch, unfortunately, but anyway, I guess I'm just rambling on. But
I think that's an important point. Like the ability and the willingness to spread out the touches and get the ball to people who might not be in that limelight just shows the versatility that the Georgia offense actually has. Because I think a lot of people play that down to, well, they can run the ball, and then once the run's working, they can default into a play action and maybe catch somebody open for a big play. But I think the fact of the matter is that the weapon that they have in Fromm, the weapon that they have on the edges is bigger than what people give them credit for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think and to close on that with Fromm, I think the biggest thing, like Will said, almost is Fromm's brain, his big brain, big brain energy. He just he knows the offense so well with our offensive line as well, with just being so seasoned. It's what he's going to see before the snap. It's going to be his audibles into the plays, getting us into the right formations, the right coverage, or the right blocking scheme. I trust him, his brain more than his arm, more than anything. Just because he is going, if the defense is going to give us something, I'm not going to ask him to, well, you got to prove it to me. You got to throw it to make sure you're a good quarterback. If you get us in the right play and we're gashing them for 13, 15, 8 yards of play on the run, people don't give him enough credit for that, I don't think, which is, it's not a sexy pick to say, oh, but look how well he audibled and called into the correct offense. But he's asked to do that every single time on that field.
It's kind of interesting because they were drawing some comparisons between him and Peyton Manning behind, an under center and moving up and high praise, right? But it's kind of interesting because it's like you draw a comparison and then you think like, well, would I rather have a pure athlete, taking the snaps, or would I rather have a guy who's really heady and can make those calls up at the line and who's tenured and seasoned within an offense, which is really, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Like a Guinness beer.
Well, it's always
big head.
you want both, right? You want somewhere in the middle, obviously.
Right.
Because you can have the biggest brain in the world. A lot of those guys, a lot of quarterbacks, I feel like, are super smart, super heady into the game. Just a gym rat, cerebral player, and they just can't.
Just checking all the cliche boxes here, aren't we?
They can't get it done on the field. They can't get it done on the field. I guess they don't have the arm strength. They can't escape something because not every play is going to go right. Something's going to go wrong. Can you fit the ball somewhere where it's going to be very difficult? Can you get it across? Can you escape? Good pocket presence. He seemed to have all that. So.
It's really a five-tool guy.
I mean, he just. I mean, there was a play. I think when it was in the deep pass, he had to step to the left. He just felt the pressure. He just knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. That experience, that mindfulness of playing for so long and starting so many games, is going to pay dividends. So, super excited about that. Running game looked great. Glad to see Zamir White get some carries.
Yeah,
that was fun.
If you don't mind, DeAndre Swift, 16 carries for 147 yards.
Yep.
Long was 36 yards. Brian Herrien, 12 carries, 65 yards. Zamir White, 5 carries, 51 yards. An average of 10.2 per carry for Zamir, which is exciting.
You could tell he was excited. It was so good to see that kid get a carry. They said that it erupted in the stadium when he came on and came off.
Right.
So the Zeus is loose.
The Zeus is loose for a team total of 323 rush yards on the game.
That's incredible.
Which is great.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we've come to expect that. I feel like we've kind of grown numb to the fact of 100-yard rusher, touchdown, not a true freshman, but redshirt freshman tearing it up, for 10 yards a carry, pick your poison, which is what you want to see. And then we still have, not to be forgotten, but Kenny McIntosh, 4-star running back who didn't make the trip to the travel roster. He's still waiting, so hopefully we get to see him a little bit too. Mm-hmm. But super excited to see Zeus. The kid looks great, looks like a tank.
What do you think about that fumble?
Fumble was ugly. I think he was just
ugly.
He was so excited and so geared up. I mean, it was a good punch from that guy.
It was a good
behind.
punch.
But man, that thing just flew 20 yards downfield.
He wouldn't hold on to that thing.
Yeah, it was not very pretty looking. But he'll correct that. I'm not too worried with those. We have never really had a fumble issue, I feel like. Now that's player to player. But he's got some good guys ahead of him. Del McGee's a great, running back coach. We've never had an issue with all the, just a line of running backs we've had. We've never really had anyone with a fumble finger, so I don't see that being an issue. Hopefully it's not. But again, that was a kid's first football game back since his senior year of high school.
Yeah.
And that was
crazy.
Yeah, and that was his team made it to the playoffs, I know, but he didn't even play in the playoffs, so he's missed a whole ton of football. So exciting to see that kid.
He surprisingly wasn't as
explosive,
maybe burly as I would have.
Really?
Well,
yeah.
Really? I don't know.
Think he's good. I don't think he's like a man.
I mean, obviously, he's huge.
But he's a kid, but yeah. I thought he looked huge. I will say, but speaking of the offense, I guess players that stuck out to me, very exciting. Demetrius Robertson, again, number 16 wide receiver, had his first catch for Georgia this year. It happened to be a touchdown for that first score you guys saw in the back of the end zone. And then secondly, maybe not as exciting, but Charlie Warner for me was awesome. I thought he was making every single block. I mean, he was just football 101 as far as making your offense look explosive. If you can block on the edge, our running backs are just doing what they had to do behind the line of scrimmage, getting to that next level. And then Charlie Warner and those guys, everyone keeps saying he's going to have a big year as a tight end, and maybe it's in the blocking scheme, but the kid, if you go back and watch, I think all 3 of our touchdowns, he was setting the edge and setting the block out there wide and making those huge chunk plays possible. I mean, the kid looked great. So that was super exciting to see. I know it's hard to kind of watch that in a game. Everyone watches the ball carrier, and you want to see the missed tackles and the breaking tackles and all that. But if you watch Charlie Warner, 89, cue in on him next game.
Was he the one that set the block for James Cook's touchdown run?
Yeah. He waits for the guy to come to him, super patient, make sure he lets James Cook bait the guy in, then cuts out, and then Charlie Warner just takes 2 of them out. I mean, the kids. I mean, it's awesome. I love that kind of stuff. I mean, it goes unnoticed for the most part.
But that was one thing that I made note of that I thought was really impressive and again, it ties in a little bit to the offensive line, but I thought that they did a tremendous job with creating those gaps and opening the holes up for the running backs. And even when they got into the open field, they made a point. Did you see I don't remember who they were, but they were basically leading that run down the side, and those guys were busting out for the misdirection.
Yeah.
God, it was awesome.
I know. It's incredible to watch
because when they you don't
awesome.
You don't always pick up on that in the moment. You're watching the ball, and it was I don't remember if it was an end around or what it was, but those 3 lead blockers, those big guys.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah,
I remember that. I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's
sorry, I'm getting too excited over here, hitting Brent's mic.
That's a reason to get excited.
It was awesome.
But I mean, as if our offensive line's not enough, they already get at the second level. Then now we have these huge receivers like Lawrence Cager. You got Matt Landers out there blocking his tail off. You got Charlie Warner, who's already a big tight end, moving out there. We just have all these big body guys that it's incredible to watch. It really is. I mean, I would encourage you to just go back and watch some of the highlight tapes for you, those of you that are listening or watching, and just watch who's blocking and don't get so caught up in the ball carrier. And it is that's just fun to see the kind of athletes you have. But that's what Kirby always preaches. You have to block to be a wide receiver. or a tight end to get on the field. Before you're ever going to catch a ball, you got to show them that you're willing to commit to make our ground game respectable and feared. So it'll eventually make your job easier because it'll open you up. So anyway, super, super excited to see Charlie Warner come out of the gate and just, SEC opponent. I think people are writing it off because, it's Vanderbilt. Yeah, it's first game. But we're 1-0 in the SEC. That's one under our belt, only 5 more. Game, so, it's super exciting to do that.
No, that's awesome. And I totally agree with that. I think to Tyler's point, like people try and downplay that a lot. And the fact of the matter is they were still on the road. I get it that we took over that stadium, but that's just more of a credit to our fans and not a knock against our team. So I'm excited with the way that they performed. I know that they didn't dominate the scoreboard quite as much as we had predicted. I think I said like 41, 13, 41, 14, something like that.
We were all around there.
So, they didn't do as much on the scoreboard, but I want to get more to the defense and talk about what we saw from them. Because the fact of the matter is they kept Vanderbilt to 6.
Yeah, no touchdown. 0 touchdown score
awesome.
so far.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you're playing. If you're playing in the SEC and you hold your team to the opposing team to 6, there's something to talk about.
Yeah. So, for sure. So
go ahead.
Just kind of started off. I'm pretty big on stats. Vandy had 225 yards of total offense, and again we had that.
How much was our running?
323
Okay.
in rushing alone.
Get out.
There's that. Monty Rice and Mark Webb led the team in tackles with 7 each. Aziz Ojolari had 6 with a half a sack and a half a tackle for loss.
Yeah.
So it was fun to watch. Some of the new guys, Nolan Smith had that. I guess it wasn't a sack, but because he got past the line of scrimmage, which I was pumped for. I thought it was going to be a sack for a little minute, and I got excited for him for a freshman to be doing that. And I was thinking about y'all's bet about 35, total sacks, and we're up to 1 after 1 game.
Yep.
So that's a ground to make up.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we can pad our stats a little bit with these next couple games. But yeah, I was excited to watch the new guys. Nolan Smith, obviously. Watching Ojolari play, that was really fun as well. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I was disappointed to not see as much havoc. Right, we probably should have about the word havoc. That's all we'll talk about the rest of the year. So not as much QB pressure as I would like. 1 sack shared by Aziz Ojolari, who I think Jimmy and I are both thinking he was going to lead the team in sacks eventually this season. And I think it was Trayvon Walker.
It was
Channing
Tindall,
middle linebacker. Or inside linebacker. But yeah, I was super excited to see Nolan Smith get that tackle. Thought it was a sack myself. That was just big 3rd down situation.
I stood up and was
obvious passing down. Here comes that 5-star held freshman we thought we would see, and he just relentless motor, just chases him down from behind, gets the quarterback. He's not the most mobile quarterback. Neil Riley, who played for Vanderbilt, is a transfer from Ball State, but he had some wheels. I know he ran it a little bit at Ball State as well. I know all of you watch Ball State film. But it was, anyway, very fun to see that. And then Trayvon Walker, who was defensive, I guess, calling him a defensive tackle. He's 44, true freshman, another 5-star. He was a number 3 overall recruit in the country last year. Just to show you how highly touted he was. But he looked incredible too. He was just blowing up the offensive line. He had that one play where they called a screen on 3rd down. He blows up the offensive tackle, knocks his guy on his ass, and then tackles the running back before he even gets going. He sees it immediately. True freshman, this kid. You can smell.
He was in prom 4 months ago.
You can smell the regret of prom on him still. It's crazy. And he blows up the offensive tackle, tackles a running back from behind the line of scrimmage, and that was it. I saw the play was dead. It was over with. True freshman. The kid. That's his first game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe he's played 7 or 8 snaps up to that point in the game. Just so much fun to watch those young guys play. You're right. I guess we didn't see any batted balls or turnovers, interceptions. I guess we got a fumble recovery. But overall, I guess that's who I was impressed with the most on defense was just Trayvon Walker, and then I'll also go with Jordan Davis, the nose tackle, number 99. When he comes in, just watch a few defensive plays when we get some of those stuff runs or when we do pressure the quarterback. He takes up the center and a guard every single play, and to see 3 guys on our defense just swing around and just overload their defense or offensive line. It's it is incredible to see the jump in production from our defensive front. These guys we're naming have their hand on the ground. They're the front three, and we're getting pressure without really necessarily bringing the blitz. Ojulari, linebacker, the blitz. That was a blitz when we got the sack, but we were able to at least manufacture enough pressure with just those front three or front four, depending on the lineup. So, unfortunately, getting to see much of the secondary, they didn't really pass all over the yard on us. I thought we did a really good job of closing down the edges when they tried to do some quick dump passes. We get really quick at gang tackling, which really speaks to the speed of our defense. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll get to see much of our defense on display until Notre Dame. So, like Will said, maybe we'll get to pad our stats to see us boost up some of those havoc plays and sack numbers. But I will say in this next game, which I'm sure we'll get to here quickly, Murray State, they are an air raid team, so that might be a little more action on our secondary as far as having some open field tackling and just how much they spread the ball out and what their offense is like. So we might get to see a little bit of more of that. But again, back to the defensive line with how dominant they are, I just see them dominating any offensive line we play these next 2 weeks with these smaller cupcake teams. But
yeah, I mean, I thought they did a great job overall, and I thought that the tone was set early. When they came out, even on the first defensive drive that they were out there for, Vandy picked up the first down just barely, and then couldn't even get the snap off to go because the stadium was so loud. And then finally, the last play was what I would consider a havoc play, which was a corner blitz on the backside, which was able to bring down the quarterback for a very minimal gain on that play. So for me, while we talk about the havoc plays, and it's a huge buzzword that we've had being thrown around, as Kirby mentioned and alluded to, it's not necessarily just talking about sacks, but it's forcing them to relinquish themselves to maybe a 1 or 2 yard gain and bringing them into a position where if it's fourth down and unmanageable.
Yeah.
And that they're going to have to punt the ball away. So I thought it was a great showing by Georgia's defense. I think you're absolutely right that we're probably not going to see too much of a challenge until we get to Notre Dame. But that being said, I don't know a whole lot about Murray State, but you mentioned that it's going to be an air raid team. So hopefully we do get to see some more tests on our end, at least for a tune-up for Notre Dame. So it's exciting stuff, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you want to see, like kind of what we said on the offense, the secondary, or with the wide receivers, excuse me. You want to kind of, as a fan, selfishly, you want to know what you have. We want to see it. The coaches know. They see these guys in practice every day. You know, they understand what they have. And there is some value in seeing some of those younger guys in live reps, not just versus your scout team or second team or first team offense or defense. But yeah, I agree. I think heading in, you want to head into Notre Dame and then that bye week just feeling like world beat up. Man, our secondary is locked down. Man, just pick your poison on defense, offense, whatever. You can just, we can catch the ball, we're running the ball, we're getting interceptions, we're getting sacks. You want to see it all, right? You want to be the complete team. And with these kind of tune-up games, we'll say Vanderbilt, Murray State, Arkansas State, you definitely just want to have, no questions asked. You want us to score 50, 60 points at will, Yep. So it's hard to come away. I know some fans have kind of griped about us not scoring more points and kind of, putting the game on ice essentially. But I don't know. I guess that
as long as we get out of there healthy, as long as I understand the desire to see big time numbers because, you want to see who's in the running for certain awards at the end of the season, and you want to absolutely dominate other people in your conference and division. I get that, but at the same time, like we've got bigger fish to fry further down the line.
Right.
So I don't think there's any need to trot the same players back out there if the game's well in hand, and we can get some people that can just manage the clock.
Yeah, for sure. I'd agree with that.
So, any final words? Any final thoughts on Vanderbilt? Or are we good to move on? Because I do want to make sure that we touch on the rest of the games that took place.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In that weekend, and honestly, the one that's top of mind for me, it's and they're basically irrelevant, but that's Tennessee falling so flat on their face to Georgia. I mean, that's unbelievable. Losing to Georgia State in your home stadium. I don't know how you explain that to donors. I don't know how you explain that to people that you've recruited, to parents. Like, that's unbelievable. Right. Unacceptable.
Right.
I didn't get to watch any of that game. Did you get to watch some of that game?
I watched the highlights. I mean, talk about a pretty catastrophic loss. I mean, where's the talent on the field
should win alone, even if it's ugly.
Right.
How did Tennessee do in this past NFL draft? Didn't they go like the entire first round and not have a single person drafted or something?
They didn't send a single player to the combine, I don't think.
Okay, then that's what it was. But I was like,
no one got drafted. I know.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good indication of how this program's going. But I don't even know if you can even call this like a rebuilding decade. Like, how could you possibly field a team that could even have a hope for 500 with where you're at right now in your program and where prospective recruits are looking and seeing people literally leaving the team because it's that embarrassing?
Yeah.
Well, I think the leaving the team might have been that embarrassing. I know one of the kids tweeted out, he retweeted someone making fun of Tennessee, and he laughed at it too, which is disrespectful to your teammates and the work you put in to mock your own team of losing, even though the kid didn't play.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, there were 2 guys that left this week, so it's kind of a whole bunch of comical things that happened in Tennessee. I couldn't happen to a better bunch. I don't really have any soft spots for him because of that whole Chubb. Since Chubb tore his knee up, which I know they have no control over. But I do remember
that stadium just is a graveyard.
Well, their fans were pretty ugly about that. I remember the next year they had a whole bunch of signs about
they're just
breaking
ugly
his
in
knee and
general.
stuff. But that's not the whole fan base. I understand that. But I will say to Tennessee, I didn't really watch the game, unfortunately. I was getting updates. Everyone was talking about it when it was happening. So it's kind of the easy low-hanging fruit as far as getting to really rail on a program that should be contending in the SEC East. But to Will's point, you just have to look back to Lane Kiffin. It starts back with since Joey Freshwater left Knoxville in the dead of night to go to USC. This program has not been able to recover. I mean, it took a swing on Derek Dooley, fell. Butch Jones fell, and then this. But before we even get to Jeremy,
I hate Butch.
And they're clowns. But before we even get to Jeremy Pruitt, they offered Greg Schiano. They got backlash on that, rescinded that offer. Then they were between, I want to say Charlie Strong was in the running. Didn't happen. Then that might be incorrect, but I think it was Charlie Strong. Then there was Mike Leach, the Washington State head coach. They thought they had him, but then they had Pruitt on a string, like their fifth guy, who finally said sure. Mm-hmm. So then he took it. First year, I think he went 5-7. And then now here they are starting off 0-1 versus a team they probably would have marked up as a guaranteed win, a program that's only Georgia State. It's only had a football team for 10 years, mind you. And then next you got BYU, who is definitely more formidable than Georgia State. And it only gets tougher from there. Then they play, I think, Chattanooga. Then they get into Florida, Georgia. They get to everyone else. So Tennessee can't. I'll just say this in the big sense of Tennessee football, they can't get rid of Pruitt. I don't think you can.
No.
I think this has shown them that it is not as easy as just getting a new coach and hoping it works out. There has to be some continuity, and the only thing I think Pruitt has going for him right now is look at what we have. You will play immediately. You will either start all 3 or 4 years. You can come play with every 5-star you want, recruit every guy you want. I'll have a team of freshmen out there, and I'll just take my lumps because it can't get any worse. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe they bounce back. We'll see this week. I'll definitely be very intrigued by the Tennessee-BYU game to see mentally how they'll bounce back and see how their fans respond. Will their stadium even be curious to see?
I think they're going to get crushed.
I don't know if they'll get crushed. I can see them being pretty pissed off and very embarrassed. But, man, a win's a win, even if it's ugly as can be and by 1 point. But if they do lose, I think you'll see some record. I think that's the largest stadium, second largest stadium in the country, in Neyland
behind
Stadium.
Michigan. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think if they do lose to BYU, you will see some record number low attendance, and talk about crushing a program. Talk about not getting butts in the seats, people watching your game, not even being desirable to be on SEC Nation, having your game there just simply because no one wants to watch. You're not going to even get the eyes to watch your teams.
It just blows my mind that you are in the SEC and you can't field a competitive program.
I don't get it. I can't.
You know what I mean?
Well, after this past weekend, how great is the SEC this year?
Yeah, we can get more into that too. I guess Tennessee's going to dominate the talk for us as far as how bad the East looked. We definitely didn't do us any favors as far as the other programs that lost in the East. But golly, I mean, is there anything else to say about Tennessee? I guess
I don't want to belabor.
Okay, we can move on.
Specifically that game.
I just don't think they can. I don't think they can get rid of Jeremy Pruitt. They can be as upset. He can have a horrible, horrible season, but I think you're stuck with him for at least another 3, 4, 5. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous. You don't want to keep. The best way to get out of a hole is to stop digging it. But where do you go? People are already turning on your program. How do you change the image of your program? So I'd like you to tie yourself to one guy and just go all in and preach playing time.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know. It was a miserable thing to behold. Obviously, I don't know. You're kind of torn because it's like you want the East to be, competitive and everything like that. But damn, that was ugly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean there was some ugly. So sticking with the East. So then, not only did Tennessee lose to Georgia State, You had Missouri losing to Wyoming, of all people.
37-31.
Ugliest uniforms in college football also.
Who's that?
Wyoming. They're brown and yellow.
Yeah, they're
Go check it out.
Are those the Cowboys?
It looks like the Packers.
Cowboys?
It looks like the
remember that,
Packers
yeah.
retro uniforms.
It's hideous.
Yes.
Hideous uniforms. Kentucky. Did Kentucky win?
Yeah, Kentucky won. I don't think Kentucky gets enough
Credit?
credit.
They lost a lot. They lost a lot. Benny Snell
did
Jr.
lose
was
a
their
lot.
guy, and their quarterback was dog awful.
Yeah.
Dog awful. I think
Is that what you're gonna say?
I think he was all asked to throw the ball 14 times last year. The kid is absolute trash. I never played college football, but my God, that kid is. Whew, I think there's better quarterbacks on Georgia Tech's roster than what Kentucky's got. It's awful. And then, but I know we had some other losses. So South Carolina. Coughing up a freaking loss to UNC won 2 freaking games last year. My God. In the ACC, which everyone dogs the ACC for being a cupcake conference, and Clemson just skating their way through it. And now look at us. Here we are. It's only week 1, so we're all going to overreact to everything good and everything bad. I understand that. But my God, losing to a team that won twice. I mean, South Carolina, and then Jake Bentley went down, who's supposed to be their kind of keep a competitive quarterback.
Right, yeah.
Losing for 6 weeks to a broken foot. Mac Brown, who was the new UNC coach. Some of you guys may remember Mac Brown's a long-time Texas head coach that won the national championship with Vince Young and that great Rose Bowl victory over USC, rather. Excuse me. Anyway, back from the grave, Mac Brown, who knew the kid could still walk or recruit or anything, goes out there and beats a very well-abled Will Muschamp.
Yeah.
That was just I couldn't believe that. So yeah, with the SEC East just losing to all these teams that are you lose to Georgia State,
Miss.
you lose to Ole Miss in the West, but yeah, Ole Miss losing to Memphis. The SEC took losses to Memphis. Listen to this: Memphis, Georgia State, Wyoming, and
North Carolina.
North Carolina, who won 2 games last year.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
It does not.
Auburn almost lost to Oregon if it didn't.
It's a quality opponent though.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a quality
right.
opponent.
But I don't know. It was watching that game. Talk about a guy that goes from like a no name to being like a kind of like not really a household name, but
Bo Nix,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a 5-star quarterback.
No, I know that. But
you see the
only
picture?
only the big
Yeah.
only like the big like college football fan would know Bo Nix before, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I know I didn't really know Bo Nix that well.
That's fair. Yeah, no, that's fair.
And then now this guy comes in, first game, he's in Dallas, he's at, Jerry's house and throws his Hail Mary with I don't know how many, like 20 seconds, 5 seconds. Yeah, 5 seconds left. And a typical Auburn fashion wins at the last second throw. Like
Probably bounced off somebody's chest.
Yeah,
It was an ugly catch.
He came back to Alabama, so he was a quarterback in Scottsboro, which is my uncle's hometown.
In Alabama?
In Alabama. And then I think they transferred for, they wanted Bo Nix to be, very successful.
Did you see the video
But,
or the photo of him
with
in
Cam?
the stands
In
I was
2010,
like,
yeah.
oh my God.
He's like 10.
No,
Yeah.
I feel old.
Yeah,
I know.
it is crazy. Yeah, Bo Nix is incredible. I knew
he was good.
He had an ugly stat line, like 13 for 31 or something. It was not pretty. Two interceptions.
He won.
He won. Yeah, he got it done. And they will get better. Like all these teams will get better. I mean, Ole Miss will get better. Tennessee, I don't know. Maybe they'll get better. But the rest of the teams, I think they'll improve. They'll get pissed off. They'll get angry. But it does not do the SEC East any service. We can't really be running our mouth to the ACC fans in Clemson about how, look at your schedule when look in our backyard. These guys are just laying eggs left and right and having injuries to their starting quarterbacks and such. I think they'll get better. Most teams do improve, but tough opening slate for the SEC.
It was tough.
We're definitely limping out of the week 1 with a black eye. Unfortunately for me, UGA's home schedule was very excited about Missouri with Kelly Bryant transferring there from Clemson. Was excited about South Carolina being home as well, just because Will Muschamp, Jake Bentley. There's a little bit of spice there, I guess. You try to find the excitement where you can in home games, outside of just Notre Dame and just Texas A&M. Those are already big games. You want to get your money's worth as a season ticket holder, and you want to have fun games for your fans at home. And now those games, unfortunately, are looking a little.
It's too bad Auburn's not in Athens.
I wanted to take a quick minute before we go to a next topic, but just kind of when we're talking about college football as a whole, what you guys thought about Justin Fields and Jacob Eason. Both of them showed out.
I did not see Eason. I guess I saw Eason's stat
didn't get
line.
to see it.
You didn't see Eason's stat line?
I did see a stat line. I did not see
Okay.
the game. I did get to watch the first half of Justin Fields, and then I got to watch all the highlights as they rolled in because there were so many. The kid, I mean, he's in a system that's friendly to him. He looked great. He looked decisive, I'll say, while running. I'm not going to knock the kid.
I will.
Anyone can throw against that FAU defense. I feel like, my God, Joey Freshwater, the head coach of FAU. I mean, he wasn't even throwing receivers open. They were just open. I mean, seriously, go back and watch some of those throws. There are guys open. Seriously, there are guys standing there 15 yards wide open, no one around.
Just giving a lot of cushion, man.
Just
a lot of cushion.
It was a joke. So he looked there. He impressed, though. I mean, like I said, he pulled the ball down and ran with his head down. We never saw that. He ran around behind our great offensive line like a chicken with his head cut off, unfortunately. So he did look impressive. I think we are going to see that week in and week out, unfortunately. I think we are not going to. This isn't going to be the last we hear of Justin Fields. I mean, the kid is an athlete. He's a freak. But go on. I'll stop rambling about him.
No, I mean, you don't want to dog him, and I'm not going to dog him, but I'm just saying it's funny how when you watch when I saw the two stat lines beside each other. So Jacob Eason was 27 of 36 with 349 yards and 4 touchdowns, a QBR of 95.2. Wow. So he killed it. And it's funny when I see that stat line, I'm like, yeah, like that's great, you know. And then I see Justin Fields' stat line, and I'm like, I don't know. There's just something about the way
Ohio State too. I think Ohio State has.
It's Ohio State, right. And Jacob Eason, he transferred. He paid his dues. He sat out a year. He went home to his home school. And he just did so many things the right way. Not to say that Jacob Eason did, or not to say that Justin Fields did not, but it transfers to the Ohio State, doesn't have to sit out a year, that transfer portal. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably because Ohio State is a little bit more of a threat. I don't really, my initial, reaction to his stat line was not as high as it was to Jacob Eason. Yeah.
I'll say though, I mean, again, we can overreact to all of this or, good or bad. If we were to, I would love to see Ohio State in the playoffs. I would love to beat Alabama in Atlanta and see him first game of the playoffs. I wouldn't want him to get that far, obviously, just because of we all have a kind of this grimy feeling of he didn't do it right, he didn't earn it, right? He couldn't beat Fromm, he got out, gets cleared by some miracle and can play,
right? And
I mean, the kid's an athlete. You cannot knock him. He's an athlete. He's going to make these plays, but play against our defensive front, play against our secondary. Mm-hmm. Our linebackers, you're not going. Our guys know his tendencies. It'll be a whole different ball game. I know with a different offensive, scheme. I get all that, but I would love to see him play someone
right
of our Clemson's caliber or Bama, obviously, and he might get the chance. I would love to see that because then that's when you truly see those guys get exposed. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. I mean,
at the end of the day, you're right. Like we chose Fromm for a reason. It's because those coaches know what they're doing.
The kid beat him out. Yeah, I mean. It'll be a fun debate. Who would you rather have 2-minute drill? Who do you have the kind of what Will said? Do you want the supreme athlete that has all the tools to tuck it down and run, make people miss, run somebody over, sling the ball 90 yards downfield, or do you want the guy who's gonna be very heady, very smart, and not make that mental error?
Or you could have Jalen Hurts,
who also looked incredible.
That guy's winning the Heisman.
Yeah,
six touchdowns, 3 running, 3 throwing. I was like,
I thought they stopped making the NCAA football game like years ago. And here comes
he was the 99
I know
player
one
that
thing
you created on your own.
Lincoln Riley's going to have the pick of the litter when it comes to coaching jobs next year.
Yeah. Or quarterbacks. I mean, my God, if he wants to stay at Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and now if he can continue. Jalen Hurts,
Heisman U,
not the strongest
Heisman U.
I mean, it's Oklahoma and Notre Dame are tied already for the most Heisman Trophy winners, and here we go.
That's funny.
Roll out another one, but Jalen Hurts, not the strongest passer, not a horrible passer, but against the Big 12 defenses, that's going to be great, and I can't knock the kid. I mean, he does. He looked good. Video game numbers. I just think it's great that all 3 of these guys we are talking about are all SEC transfer quarterbacks playing in what we would all say lesser leagues.
Right.
So good for them. I mean, it is fun to see the tip of the cap to those guys that are great athletes and can go find greener pastures and really light it up and make themselves a career out of it. Hopefully, but it's just I kind of like being like, you can have our leftovers and you're welcome. College football.
Yeah, we'll see in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we don't have too much time left on the shows. We're coming closer to the end of our hour, but the NFL season starts tonight with the Bears against the Packers. 8:20, I think 8:20 kickoff. I'm definitely excited for that game. I know my brother Jonathan is a huge Bears fan, so he's really looking forward to that. What are you guys looking forward to most for the season overall? Brent, I know you're a big Falcons fan.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to most for the season?
So I'm really interested to see, within our own division, the NFC South. You got Cam Newton, a little bit more developed in terms of his relationship with Christian McCaffrey, who, in a lot of leagues is going, 1 or 2. Yep. He's a great player. And also Newton's coming back from, I believe, a shoulder surgery,
like
right?
Third in a row. Yeah.
So how does he look? Does he still airmail that ball? Is he ever going to get over that? Has Cam Newton peaked? Like, was his best years?
2015. Yes,
early years.
Yes, I can go on about that, but
yeah, and then moving across that division, the Falcons, are bound to have, or at least I think they should have a rebound year. You have Keanu Neal back, you have Deion Jones back, Ricardo Allen is back. So we suffered all those injuries on the defense. Is Vic Beasley, who's in his last year of his contract? And typically, if we're going to re-sign a player, we re-sign a player in his last year, and we have not made any indication of re-signing him because he led the league in sacks, I think 2 years ago, and then just went off a cliff. I think last year didn't show any kind of potential.
Well, if he's looking for a contract, I think he's gonna try and show out this year.
I thought it was last year. I thought because I remember dogging him prior, and then he lit it up.
No, that wasn't last year.
They had that backwards.
No, okay. Yeah. And then moving down the line to the Saints, Father Time is undefeated, and Drew Brees is getting older, and
I was looking at him in the draft, fantasy draft.
Right.
He's such a tempting player to take. Though. He's just like a rock.
He gets his yards,
dude. He does every year.
Yeah, Tom Brady's an anomaly, and you can't. Peyton Manning is the regular. The guy that went to Denver, had that great year, and then 1 year later, he fell off a cliff. Noodle arm. That's more of your normal kind of storyline. So what? Is it it could be the Saints' revenge tour. I mean, after they got,
It's always hard to count the Saints out because playing a game, you can never get Drew Brees down. You know, you can never feel like you can never sack the guy. They just have so many weapons every year. They have some guy who just nickel and dime. They're aggravating to play against.
Right. I hate the Saints, but I love watching Drew Brees.
He's
such a love hero. I love Drew Brees.
He's a hell of a guy too.
Yeah.
And is Patrick Mahomes, there's talk about, I think the most points in a season is like 605 or something. It's like right above 600. And it was the Peyton Manning Denver Broncos year was the most points in a single season. And there's talk about if they can surpass that. They scored the 4th most ever last year. So
funny enough, he also led.
You mean offensive points?
Offensive points,
I'm sitting here with fantasy points.
No, offensive points. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then my last thing I'll say is what kind of offense does Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray? Because the discussion is they haven't shown a lick of what their offense is going to be, and how does that. A losing quarterback or a losing coach in college football who gets handed the keys to an NFL franchise, how is that going to translate?
Yeah.
I don't think I personally don't think it's going to translate very well, but you never know.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest NFL fan, unfortunately. Love watching, the ex-Dogs, former Dogs go on to the NFL. Excited to watch those guys. To Brent's point, there are a few obviously highlighted stories I love to watch. Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray being one, just because of the player he is, how electric he was at Oklahoma. Cliff Kingsbury, handsome fella, but not a very good coach, and in college, unfortunately. So that'll be extremely interesting to watch. I am a random Panthers fan, I know, so I always like watching them to see how they're going to perform. Cam's not the guy's going to drop it back and throw it 40 times a game. That's just not what the Panthers ask him to do anyway. They're a run-first team. I guess Cam's always had a propensity to throw it high, and I just don't ever see him getting over that. Like, Father Time is definitely weighing on Cam, the way he's played, the way he's ran.
Getting hit.
His offensive line hasn't been that stellar ever, unfortunately. So it's just amazing to me, the Panthers. I do not understand how year in and year out, they cannot get Cam more weapons on the perimeter, and they cannot build that offensive line.
I was going to say, if he had the line, I think he would be fine.
It's been years now, and I think since 2011, and here we're almost approaching 10 years, and the kid has never had an offensive line worth a damn. How can we not build that? So that's always a fun. I'm not the biggest fan, but I love keeping up with the Panthers because regionally it makes sense because of the Saints. You got the Falcons, a lot of foil there with friends just to kind of watch, and everyone loves to hate Cam Newton here, so it adds a little bit of a fun to those games. But love watching the old Dogs. honestly, I think the new America's team, Cleveland Browns, excite me. My roommate Spencer was a huge Browns fan. He got season tickets, goes to every home game. Straight
He
up.
still has season tickets?
Flies out Sunday morning, goes to the game, flies home Sunday night.
Oh my
Super
gosh.
committed. Yeah. So
Wow.
because of that,
I didn't know that.
yeah, super
Yeah.
committed.
Wow.
Maybe he flies out Saturday, but regardless, it's a very quick turnaround for the kid to go watch the games. But living with him, then seeing them get Chubb, not a Baker Mayfield fan, but just exciting
Drafted.
player. Then they got
OBJ.
It's just there's
Jarvis
a whole
Landry.
Jarvis Landry. They got a whole bunch of just
They have names.
the names are there, right?
Yeah.
So whether they continue or not, that's just a fun element to watch.
Yep.
I think how can you not root for the Browns? They go
Oh, I'm all in.
If they go on like on a 9-win run,
Yeah.
which would be unfathomable, it feels like. That's just for a fan base that everyone knows has just
Yeah.
gone through so much
Yeah.
crap. That's fun for me. So I'll wrap that up with my unknowledgeable NFL.
No,
Anything you're
I'm
excited about, Will?
Yeah, I'm excited about all of what you guys just talked about, but I hated Baker Mayfield in college.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And I am all on the Baker Mayfield train at this point. I'm so rooting for the Browns. Like, I just want to see a decent season. Obviously, I have a lot of stake in it because I have 2 players on that team that are on my fantasy team. So I want to see those guys perform well. I want to see the Falcons bounce back and have a solid year. I'm planning on attending at least a few of those games this season, which we'll definitely need to plan and make our way down there, support them. So yeah.
I will say it's interesting that both Elijah Holyfield and Isaac Nada, who both left for the draft early. I don't knock Holyfield because he's a running back, but both left early. Both did not make NFL rosters.
Well,
So
Elijah Holyfield he did make the was it scout
the practice team
squad for
So it was
Carolina
What stinks too is
He's still on the squad.
practice
I'm
squad.
I'm pretty certain I was reading he made the team, and then
got waived.
you never know if you're like that 53rd or 52nd player. So if you never get that call, you essentially know that you made the team, right? But then the waiver players go out, and so a team can still pick up a player off the waivers, and that 53rd or 52nd person, which was Elijah, gets a call after he thinks he's safe, and is like, you're actually going to go on waivers, even though you thought you made the team because we picked up this player off waivers. And so that's what I'm fairly certain happened.
because I remember getting a text of Elijah Holyfield makes a Panthers roster.
Right.
And then he's been waived. I was
Right.
like, God, what the heck?
Yeah.
But I saw a post though of UGA. They posted dogs in the NFL starting tonight, and I had Elijah Holyfield on the Panthers, so I'm pretty sure he's still on the practice squad.
He is. He is on the practice squad.
Okay, yeah.
$8,000 a week.
It's unfortunate because
How much?
$8,000 a week.
I'd do that for half of that. Call me up.
Yeah.
I'd have
Be a
CT
tackling dummy for
I'd have
$4,000 a week.
college cheese brain by week 8. I guarantee you. That'd
Yeah.
be brutal. But yeah, I mean, it'll be fun to watch all the dogs kind of this year. Roquan, I love watching him and how quickly he exploded onto the scene for the Bears tonight. So that'll be fun. But,
I think of the new ones, Mecole have one of the largest
I am
roles.
so excited to see the Bears defense. Dude, I wish I had picked them up in the draft, but dude,
Yeah.
they are dirty.
They are.
We'll see. But that's about all for me.
Yeah,
the
me
NFL.
too.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I think we're right about on time. We want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll be back again next week where we recap the Murray State game and look ahead for the rest of the season. So from all of us here to all of you out there, I want to say thanks again. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. But once again, thanks for joining us, and go Dogs.
Go dogs. Brush your teeth.